Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 73rd edition of Coffee with Coach. And we are here. I'm coming to you from my hotel room in Edmonton, Alberta, where we play the Edmonton Elks tonight in the CFL. But more importantly than that, right now, I got a chance to invite one of my really good buddies to be on the show with us and to talk about his favorite team, the Dallas Cowboys. Welcome to the show, Richard Graves.
Jeff, first of all, great to see you and great to see you looking well. And more importantly, great to see your Tiger Cats right there in the thick of things at the business end of the season in the CFL. Brilliant that you're joining us hours ahead of a game as well. This is awesome.
Yeah, it is. And, the game day thing is just so, we have our meetings in the morning, then you have a walkthrough, and then you have, pregame meal, and then you go back to your room, and it's just sit around the room and wait for the bus to go at 4:00. So I thought, shoot, let's talk a little ball instead of sitting around the room, just adding to the anxiety of the moment. What in the world, my man? I got to ask this question: how much of a revelation has Diggs been and Parsons been to a Cowboy defense that last year at this time couldn't stop a nosebleed?
Well, we spoke pre-season, didn't we? And I think I said back then to you, if the Cowboys defense could just be middle of the road, league average, then with the offense that the Cowboys have got, this team could do something. I think it's fair to say through 7 weeks of the regular season, this Cowboys defense has been better than average. And that's because for the first time in years, they've got an opportunistic defense. Trayvon Diggs, 7 picks through 7 weeks, leading the NFL. Right now, he's on course to break the all-time regular season interception record. Will he do it? Well, there's a long way to go. But the energy that young players like Trayvon Diggs, like Micah Parsons gives to this team, and the players that have come in, because let's not forget, on the defensive side of the ball, Dallas have had a number of injuries to their starters, and yet you wouldn't know it the way Dan Quinn has got this defensive unit playing. And combine that with the high-octane offense that Dak Prescott is leading right now, straight out of the gate, and you have a winning formula. And all of a sudden, we're watching things like NFL Good Morning Football this morning on NFL Network, and they're talking about the Cowboys as Super Bowl contenders from the NFC. So who knows where this season will end up? But right now, this is a dramatic improvement on what Cowboys fans have seen through recent years.
I want to take you back a year from right now, and we had watched a Cowboy defense, a once proud Cowboy defense. And, you go back in the history, and Richard, you're a huge Cowboys fan. And obviously there was a time with the triplets, and they've always had good offensive players. But the history of the Cowboys is really rooted in the defense and rooted in the doomsday, the Randy Whites, the Cliff Harrises, the Charlie Waters, all those great, great Cowboy defenses of the past. And it was really hard to watch last year, them be so disjointed on defense. So the communication was so lacking. There was no coordination from the front line to the second line to the third line of the defense. And I really felt like Dan Quinn was going to make a positive impact. But I'll be honest with you, he's made even a bigger impact than I thought he would make.
Yeah, and I don't think you'll find anybody associated with the Cowboys, either in the organization or a Cowboys fan, that would disagree with those sentiments, Jeff. I mean, who knows what actually went on, what the reality of the story was last season with Mike Nolan's defense. You had players talking, saying it was too complicated a scheme. Players didn't know where they were meant to be lining up, what gaps they were meant to be filling. All I know is that what they put out on the field actually seemed to give weight to those arguments. Now, this time around, players are talking about a more simplified scheme. Players seem to know what their assignments are. You've got young players coming in, players untested and underrated in some respects. Osa Odigizua, who is he, people would say? He was a mid-round draft pick that wasn't ever meant to start this season, but because of injuries to the defensive line, suddenly he's thrust into that starting role, and he's making plays, stuffing the run, getting to the quarterback and pressurizing him. Aside from week one, DeMarcus Lawrence, the Cowboys' best player, Jeff, hasn't even been on the field. He's still out injured, and Dallas haven't missed him. And I think a lot of credit has to go not only to the players on the field, but to Coach Quinn for the job he's done. And let's not forget Aidan Durder as well, the British coach that down there looking after the linebackers for the Cowboys, because he's making noises as well.
Well, I don't think we can really overstate the impact that those coaches have had on this football team. When I watch it as a coach, what I see is a defense that is playing with much greater energy than they played with last year. I expected that from Quinn. He's a high energy guy. Players are drawn to him. He's that kind of personality. Aiden the same way. But fundamentally, Richard, they are so much better than they've been in the past. And then you mix that in with a really good group of young, athletic chess pieces, if you will, because when you talk about Diggs and you talk about Parsons, you're talking about two guys that are, very, very high level players that can do a number of things inside that defensive structure. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's easy to overlook all of that, Jeff, in the modern NFL when we talk about it being a passing league. It's about offense. But, you speak to people like Troy Aikman from great Cowboys teams of old, and he will time and time again assert that, fine, he, along with Michael Irvin and Emmitt Smith, got a lot of the praise and the Great Wall of Dallas on that offensive line. But it was the defense that led the NFL that enabled those playmakers to go out and put points on the board. And yet very few of them ever made it to the Pro Bowl. They were often overlooked. And so you come to the modern Cowboys team, and sure, the headliners are Dak Prescott, Zeke Elliott, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, et al. But you've got to be able to stop the opposition when they're in possession of the ball. Dallas could not do that 12 months ago. And you saw through the first 5 weeks when Dak was healthy and playing, they were putting up 30-plus points a game. And I think they only won one of those out of the first 4 that they played. Whereas this time around, you've got Micah Parsons making plays from linebacker. Oh, and by the way, in his second game, we'll stick him in at defensive end, and he'll just go and sack Justin Herbert in the process. You've got Trayvon Diggs, obviously, we've spoken about him with his interceptions. And then on the opposite him, you've got Anthony Brown, who's been with the Cowboys for several years. Suddenly, players feed off players, and they're all making plays. They're all rushing to the ball, and it shows in the products on the field.
I look at this team, and I'm going to use a coaching word here, or a coaching phrase here, complementary football. And I see the Cowboys doing that because one of the reasons why this defense is better, and again, we've already, talked about Quinn, we've talked about the players that they brought in, but when you have Dak back and that offense is going the way it can go, it really does help a defense. First of all, they're on the field an awful long time. And second of all, you're scoring points when you're on the field. And so the defense, they're facing more one-dimensional offenses than they have had in the past, where, teams would get, they'd get ahead and they could do whatever they chose to. So I think the Cowboys are playing really, really good football right now across the board.
Yeah, and it's a problem if you're an opposition coach preparing your team to play the Cowboys, because in week 1, Dallas barely ran the ball. They pretty much ignored Zeke Elliott and Tony Pollard out of the backfield. They just threw it and ran the Buccaneers close. It went down to obviously the final play of the game. Well, since then, I think I'm right in saying Dallas in total rushing yards are leading the league, certainly going into the bye week. That was the case last weekend in running the football. So suddenly, well, you can take away Amari Cooper. You can take away CeeDee Lamb. Michael Gallup's coming back in all likelihood this weekend. He's another problem. But if you do that, how are you then going to stop the run? You can't load the box if you're going to cover the receivers. Equally, if you load the box, you're leaving these playmakers one-on-one, and then you just add in Dalton Schultz at tight end, who Cowboys fans have noted from last season, but he stepped up to the plate again this time around as well.
Yeah, and let's give full credit all the way across the board. Kellen Moore, the young signal caller for the Cowboys, is doing an outstanding job. It's interesting, Richard, when I think about him, Kellen. I remember him being a quarterback at Boise State when I was at Hawaii, and there was nothing special about him. Left-handed guy that was average height, average athletic ability, average arm, really. Other than he was an absolute winner and understood the game. He really had a really high football IQ for a college quarterback. I didn't think there was any way he was going to play in the National Football League, which he did. And then I think Jerry really recognized something special in the young guy and gave him an opportunity to be a coordinator very, very young. It's going to be tough holding on to him because he will be a head coach, I think, in the National Football League very, very soon.
Well, there's a couple of things when it comes to Kellen Moore. I think number one is how highly does Jerry Jones value him? Because you're going back 15 years, 16 years ago now. But remember when Jason Garrett was the offensive coordinator
yes,
down there in
sir.
Dallas?
Yes, sir, I do.
And he went for interviews with the Baltimore Ravens, ultimately turned them down. Harbaugh got the job, but he turned them down because Jerry Jones opened up the checkbook and said, hey, look, we're going to make you the highest paid offensive coordinator in the National Football League. And oh, by the way, we see you as our next head coach. Well, when you look at Kellen Moore, a lot of buzz about him being a head coach sooner rather than later, but sometimes things are meant to happen, Jeff. And you go back to 2016, Dak Prescott's rookie year, when Tony Romo gets injured in that preseason game against the Seattle Seahawks. Initially, at the start of preseason, it wasn't Dak Prescott that was meant to be stepping up to fill Romo's shoes if he went out injured. It was Kellen Moore. But what happened in training camp? Kellen Moore breaks his leg, ends up being on IR for the season himself. That opens the door for Dak Prescott to step in, and Kellen Moore never plays another snap, ends up going into a coaching career. And now look where he is with the Cowboys. Like, sometimes it is just fate, and it's strange how things happen. But Dallas certainly, accounting their lucky stars, they've panned out the way they have right now.
Well, let's talk about Dak, because there's a guy that I love. I've gone on record as saying that from the very first time I saw the kid as a high school player in Louisiana, and then on through his career at Mississippi State and into the pros. There's something special about him, Richard. And again, he's got enough arm, he's got enough athletic ability, he's got enough of everything. He's not overly gifted in the Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes kind of way, but he does certainly have enough talent. The thing I love about him is he just is such a great leader. A guy breaks his ankle and goes through what he's went through, and then when I watch him come back and I watch him as a quarterback, I see a guy who invested that time not only rehabbing his ankle, but fine-tuning his skill set, his presence in the pocket, his mechanics as a thrower. All of those things improved during his time away from the Cowboys. And I think really, 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 I know may not play this weekend, but I'm going to tell you something. He is playing at an extremely high level. In my mind, one of the top 5 or 6 quarterbacks in the National Football League.
Well, again, this week on NFL Network programming, I've seen them talk about Dak Prescott, not as a top 10 quarterback, not as a top 5, but a top 3 quarterback in the NFL right now. And that, again, lends weight to what you've just said. It's a great testament to his work ethic, his leadership qualities as well, because for me, that is the most impressive thing about the way Dak Prescott has returned to the field this season, because we see players having to overcome injury, and just getting back is an achievement in itself. Dak Prescott took to the field against the Bucs, and from the first snap of the game, he didn't look like he'd missed a beat. Far from it, he looks like he was a better player than the player that got carted off against the New York Giants in Week 5 last season. And you look through the 6 games Dallas have played, some of the throws he's made, some of the decision-making as well, in attempt to look after the ball. I remember his rookie season. What was the knock on Dak Prescott? He's solid, but he can't throw the deep ball. Well, you look at some of the plays he makes right now. Look at the game against the Patriots 2 weeks ago. That throw he made into the end zone to CD Lamb, back right-hand corner, absolutely pinpoint accurate. And then you're driving in overtime. Even before that, you've got, 3rd and 25? He finds CD Lamb wide open and gets them into field goal range. Then in overtime, again, uses his feet to extend the play, finds CD Lamb running across the field on the move. It's right there where only his player can get it. And that's the most impressive thing, that Dak Prescott, fine, Dallas missed him for the best part of last season. They've now got a quarterback who's signed the big money deal, and boy, is it being paid back in absolute... You can't quantify it. He's a better player than the one that left them. And you look at this team will ride as Dak Prescott rides. It's on his shoulders now. It's his team.
I don't think there's any question. Again, I have been very slow over the years to anoint the Cowboys, because it seems like every year they're the prettiest girl at the dance, and then again then when you go to dance with them, they got 2 left feet. So, the thing I really do believe that this Cowboy team, if it can stay healthy down the stretch, and that's a big if in the National Football League, but if it can stay healthy, it is poised to make not only win the championship in that East, but it is poised to make a deep, deep Super Bowl run. I see that kind of team in Dallas.
Well, we've covered Cowboys games before, haven't we, Jeff? I remember being in Dallas for the playoff game against the Green Bay Packers when they came back from a double-digit deficit and ultimately lost because they gave Aaron Rodgers too much time to move the ball downfield. I remember a Thanksgiving Day game when they played the San Diego Chargers, I think, as they were at the time, and got absolutely run all over. The difference is this season, they go to LA and play the Chargers. They dig out a hard-fought game, winning it by 3 points instead of losing it by 3 points. They play teams like the Carolina Panthers, the Philadelphia Eagles, for example, teams that they're now expected to win, and they blow them out. There's a professionalism about this team right now that I certainly can't remember in as long as I've been covering the NFL professionally, and certainly as a supporter of the Cowboys. I think you go all the way back to the early mid-90s to find a Dallas team that was as professional and as ruthless in the way they're approaching games as this current team is.
I agree with you 100%. I think they are legit Super Bowl contender. Stay healthy, keep doing what they're doing, and they've got a great chance. Hey, now, you have got one of the killer podcasts going, and I want you to talk about your podcast and let the viewers know where they can listen, because I think for everybody that's listening to this, it is certainly, Richard's podcast is certainly well worth a listen.
I sure do appreciate you making time for it, Jeff. It was just an idea that we came up with a week or so into the season, because there are a lot of podcasts out there. So what can you do that's a little bit different? Well, this season, the National Football League has made it clear it's embracing the gaming aspect around Sundays and NFL weekends. So I thought, look, rather than just do picks, we'll take 3 games each week, look at the line that the odds makers have set, and those that we think are a little bit out, I'm going to explain why I think they're out and say which way I'd go on that. So it's just 3 games every week. We've gone through 6 weeks, and at the moment we're 13-5. So we're doing pretty well. We've got 3 more selects for this week. Graves on Gridiron is the podcast. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts from, or you can go to my website, which is www.rddia.uk. You'll find it up there where you can listen to, but it's a short, snappy listen, around 15, 16 minutes every week, bite size, I like to call it. So if you're on your way to work or just jumping in the car, it should fill that journey perfectly. Graves on Gridiron is the place to go. And yeah, we're going well at the moment. We're hoping for a 3 from 3 this week.
All good, Jeff. Jeff's on mute, Richard. Your podcast was just that fantastic that he had to listen to it immediately. Yeah. Jeff, speak and see if we can hear you. You can't. Oh, okay. Right. I'm not sure what's happened, Jeff, but if you want to refresh your browser, we'll bring you back in a second, Jeff. We'll see what happens. We'll bring Jeff back in a little second. This was always going to happen, Richard. Richard, one thing that I'm presuming Jeff was going to ask very quickly. You done NFL Network in London for the Jags Dolphins game. How did you find it?
It was a fantastic experience. Look, anybody that's on this side of the pond that is involved with the NFL, a fan of the NFL Network, and especially the coverage it gets through Sky Sports NFL now, as alongside NFL Game Pass, that's your staple diet leading into Sunday evenings, as it is over here in the UK. So obviously, when I've been in the States working before, I've connected with many of their reporters, got to know people that work for the NFL Network. So to be given that opportunity myself this time around at Tottenham for the Jags Dolphins game was absolutely fantastic. A bit of an insight as well into the way the game is portrayed over in the States, but certainly some great guys to work with, a great experience, and touch wood, the first of a few more. Certainly something we're working on, and I'm looking forward to.
Jeff, you still on mute, yeah? Okay, no worries. Jeff, I'm not sure what's happening, but what we'll do is we'll take a short break, and I'll call you, and we'll try and get these.
No, he's back.
You're
Can you
back?
hear?
He was there for a second.
Oh, thank
Yes.
God, he's here. He's here. I'm gonna go away. Thank you, Jeff.
I think the producer was having mild palpitations there, Jeff, but you're back.
Well, I know this. I tell you what, this whole technology thing is an imperfect science, especially when you're dealing across as many miles as we are. But again, fans, listen to Richard's podcast, especially if you're a guy that likes to put a little shekel or two on the games. He'll give you a great insight into why you should go one way and not the other way. And again, I appreciate you coming on this show, Richard. It's always a pleasure to have you. I look forward to being back in England real soon and hooking up and again, talking ball and doing what we do, which is be fans of this great game.
Yeah, for sure. It's been too long, obviously, since we're able to catch up in person, Jeff. So once you finish your commitments with the Tiger Cats and hopefully you're lifting that Grace Cup at the end of the season, then we look forward to obviously getting you back over here and we'll sure catch up and talk some ball. And yeah, we'll see how the Cowboys go as well.
All right. There he is, one of the biggest Dallas Cowboy fans I know, a great friend of mine, and really a tremendous media talent who will give you the straight goods about the National Football League, Richard Graves. Michael, come
Thanks
back out here.
I'm here. Don't worry. Richard, thanks so much for coming on, man, as well. I know Richard has had a busy few weeks, Jeff. I was saying there whenever you were away, Richard done NFL Network for the Dolphins and Jags game, which was a good experience.
I don't know who's more big time now, you or him, right? I mean, you're doing your show from the roof of a building across the street from White Hart Lane. You're Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, I guess. Excuse me. Richard's now giving betting advice to people around the world. I mean, you guys have way surpassed me.
I mean, look, it's grand, Jeff. It's all good. It's all good. Here, more like obviously, as I was going to say, more importantly, but as importantly, you're going to go on tour. Is this rumor true? Is this?
Well, what we're talking about, and we're talking about, hey, listen, if we're going to come over to the UK to do the Sky Sports NFL games, which I believe we are, why don't we get out in the country, get out in the the islands and take this show on the road, take a live show on the road. And so, again, you came up with the great idea to get people to give us feedback about where that would be. I mean, it's one thing to do it in London, which is great because you got the major city and all that, and it's easier for us. But the object of this is to give the fans a little bit of something that they wouldn't normally get. And, we're open to going anywhere.
Yeah, there's 4 options at the minute. There's London, Manchester, Glasgow, Dublin. Unnamed or unverified dates so far. But Jeff, I can tell you live on here now, there is 10 votes separating 3 different cities at the minute. So we'll make sure we get the link. But yeah, unbelievable demand, and just people that really want to meet you and I guess have a pint or a rock shandy with you, Jeff, and talk some football in hopefully early December, depending on obviously when the CFL season ends. That takes priority.
Yeah, it does. But right now, again, we've got to play this game tonight. We got to win tonight, and then we have next week against British Columbia, and then we've got Toronto at home on the road, and then we play home against Saskatchewan to close it out. We're in the hunt right now, but still have work to do to finalize a playoff spot. But tonight's a big game, so I'm going to leave you right now, my friend, about those 4 cities. Those 4 cities you mentioned, all winners in my book. I don't know. Maybe we'll have to make this a tour. What do you think about that?
Let's talk about it in FaceTime after. But do you want to introduce our second guest tonight? I mean, he's a 2-time Super Bowl champion. I mean,
yeah, he is a big time guy. He is a great friend of our show, a great friend of what we have been able to espouse and about international players. He's one of the original guys who made it to the National Football League through the International Player Pathway Program. He's won 2 Super Bowls as a member of the New England Patriots. It was voted by John Madden as one of the top pass protectors in the National Football League during his time playing tackle for the Patriots, protecting Tom Brady, and is now involved with the NFL's expansion into Germany, the international series into Germany, and just a good friend of the show. So with no further ado, Seabass is here, Sebastian Vollmer. Hey, welcome to the second half of today's show, our 73rd show, 73rd time we had Coffee with Coach. And we're back with one of our favorite guys, and a guy that is, I've known since he was a young kid. I've watched his career. Feel very fortunate to have had him in my life as a player and also now as a friend as he's gone into retirement. He is a author of 2 books. They just wrote his second book. Sebastian Vollmer, ex-New England Patriot, Super Bowl champion. Welcome to the show, Seabass.
I appreciate it. Thanks. Always a pleasure.
All right,
By the way, when you say Coach, Coffee with Coach, A, where's your coffee? And B, all black? What are we going with here? What's your,
now, you know me as straight black. And
like it.
You know what? Anything that takes a place where caffeine can be, I don't want it in my coffee. So that's
all right.
No milk and sugar. Hey, tell me something now. You have been intimately involved in what's going on in Germany with the international series games, the selection of the cities, the 3 cities that have been, past the first round of tests. Talk to us a little bit about what's going on over in Germany right now, Seabass.
So it's really exciting. The NFL selected 3 cities, Munich, Düsseldorf, and Frankfurt, as a potential host city for hopefully next year's game, to have an NFL game on the ground, kind of like what they've been doing in London. And so I was just there in London at the London games. And so the host cities came out, kind of seeing, obviously, the Germans know how to host, an international event, soccer games, all those things pretty well. But, football is a different beast. All of a sudden, a soccer team arrives with 1, maybe 2 buses. As you know, professional football team arrives. It's a circus, right? there are 8 buses, there are equipment, there's tents, there are medical staff. It's a whole, it's a whole city coming in. So a lot of those stadiums have to make adjustments, right? But those 3 cities and their partners, including the stadiums and all those things, certainly give both sides the greatest opportunity to maximize from a potential game. That means obviously the NFL bringing the game to the fans in Germany. Germany is outside the United States, obviously the strongest market, the most fans, the most subscribers, the most merchandise sales, like all those things. So they're really loving it. And they have been since your time at the NFL Europe. They haven't had any NFL like type league over there. So they've been really starved. So they've been begging for it, and you see it. Any content that's being created, the Germans are really eating it up, and they really love it. So it is happening. Now we're going into the selection of which city it's going to be. I'm actually heading over there next week. And then it's kind of repaying the favor. Now we are going over there and looking at the stadiums, talking to the people, and just kind of seeing, everybody has the idea of what should get done, what the league wants to get done. And, it's not a one-off event. We would like to have, support from the city, like as examples. In London, there's an academy where kids go to school, get their education, but also being prepped essentially to play football at the college level or even professionally. Maybe that same thing can happen in Germany, or youth programs. We're starting, or there is a flag football league. It's been supported by the NFL. That is being added to by those 3 cities. No matter which city gets the bid, those cities will get their own flag football team, which is then being played in school, which is different. Obviously, in the States, you have sports you have football and you have other sports in actual high school, which in Germany, it's all club team based. So you're taking one step out. We just in London had the NFL International Combine, and there were some great athletes there. I think we're going to see a couple of those in the NFL pretty soon. But just trying to take, what you said in your introduction, there was a lot of people that had a vision for me and kind of helped me to get there. And it takes a lot of effort, or it took a lot of effort from a lot of people for one player. Me in that case, obviously I was a great beneficiary from the whole thing, but what the league is trying to do, take a lot of those, call it luck and circumstances and networking and all of those things out, and provide opportunities to get foreigners or non-U.S. citizens into the league with those combines, with flag football teams, with all those things. And I think the actual game that's being played in Germany is going to be the anchor for that, meaning, with that you get more fans and hopefully the youth is being interested, etc.
I think there's no question about that, Seabass. And I think all the things that go along with having a game in your country. And, Germany's got a long history of being a very, very good American football environment. But now you think about what it's going to mean to have a game there, the whole buildup of the week, the spin-off effects, what it does for, officials in the country, what it does for fans in the country, what it does for, as you mentioned, if you know the percentages, less than 2% of American kids that play high school football ever sign a professional contract, much less play in a professional game. So it's not as much as it is for providing a player a pathway. It's great if it happens, but for all of those kids who begin to play flag football, what we're developing is hopefully NFL fans for the future, a sustainable fan base. And I think that's really, really important.
Correct. And when I was in London, Jack Crawford, who was one of the London-based, well, not London, he was born in London, went to the States, was still playing with the Arizona Cardinals, but so far it's been 10 years, great career as well. And he brought up a good point. The chance of making it to the professional level, obviously, which in any elite sport or in any elite field, any job, to be the top of the world, it's hard to get to. Competition is fierce. But there's a lot of different levels below that. Going to college, getting college paid for.
Exactly.
It's a great opportunity. One of the best times of my life. It's 4 or 5 years of, having fun, getting a free education, having a head start in life. All those things are extremely valuable. And then I personally believe football can teach you so many good things, as in, from the team sport to hard work to all those things you want to succeed. It's a great lesson for life.
Hey man, I'm going to tell you something. I remember sitting in your living room, right, with your junior coach from the Düsseldorf Panther, and having him translate to your mom and dad what we were talking about with getting you a scholarship. And when I remember this, when I talked about your son may be able to go to college in the United States for free because he played football, I swear to God, your mother looked at me like she thought I was completely out of my mind.
But you probably were a little bit, but it's like, though it's so rare, and I don't know, it's somewhat of a pipe dream, but on the other hand, it does work for a lot of people, and why not you? Looking back, why not? If I would have believed in myself a little sooner, maybe you never know. So trying to instill that in the younger generation.
I tell you what, and you hit on a topic that if you never play professional football, because I never did, but I had a great college football experience, right? So my life was enriched by the game. Think about yourself, all the things you've seen and done because of this game, and then also you went to the University of Houston. That's where you met your wife, right? So all of the spin-off benefits of this opportunity are phenomenal. In your mind, give me a 15-second reason why Dusseldorf should be the place, Frankfurt should be the place, or Munich should be the place, as you see it.
Well, Munich has by far the biggest stadium. That's certainly the biggest pitch, I would say. Frankfurt is in the middle of the country, which, you kind of have the draw on that. And Dusseldorf, starting to be a big player in international hosting game, let's say, and they draw a lot of people from, their region as well. So all of them, and then it really depends on the package these cities and teams are willing to throw at it. Like I was saying in the beginning, what else is in there, not just one game. Certainly we're looking for to benefit the youth.
All right, now you're going over there next week, and you're gonna get involved in this process again. Here, talk to the city people. All this. What is the timeline that we're working on, Sebastian? How long is it going to take for them to come up with a host city?
So the plan is, it kind of depends on the partner city, like how fast they can be ready. And soccer is certainly the biggest drawback on that. Let's say it doesn't matter if you play in a stadium that's being, that hosts Bundesliga games, kind of dependent on their season, etc. So how fast can they make room for us? Plan is to have a game next year and to have, it announced before the season is over. This season is over.
All right. From having coached in NFL Europe, I can guarantee you that there'll be one person that will be completely disappointed. That's even saying it nicely, that the NFL is coming to his stadium, and that's the groundskeeper. Because when those guys see the size of the American football of an NFL player, then they look at their grass, and you know how they treat their grass over there.
Hey.
I mean, it is. We couldn't even go on the field and practice the day before a game because they were worried about the grass.
And I get it. And I mean, quite honestly, it's if you're preparing a stadium for soccer, obviously they have a certain standard for the Bundesliga and the other ones as well. You're tearing it up. I mean, it's different grass. I believe Americans use a different grass than the soccer grass, so it gets torn up easier over there. So all those issues have to be discussed, and I mean that's really the nitty-gritty thing that comes up later on. But that is a nightmare, and you have to be ready for the next game or event or whatever else is being hosted there, no doubt.
Hey, now you wrote a book 2 years ago, I guess it is now, and you've come back with a second book. Talk to us about your book and where somebody that wants to read it can find it.
Well, it's a German book, but the title is What It Takes. I mean, you can find it anywhere, Amazon, bookstore, whatever. Well, it's more about really a mindset of what I have learned through my career and probably mostly professional career, but general over life. And obviously, you pick up a lot of points from guys like Bill Belichick, from the Tom Brady's, from like guys that have had an impact on my professional career and kind of what their philosophy is. And really, in the end, what it takes to become a professional player. But it's not just for football. It's really a book about, my beliefs, but in how to, I don't want to get too deep, but succeed in what you're doing. And I don't mean success in financial ways. That is certainly not my definition. It's more about what you want to accomplish, whatever that is, and how to get there. And it's really about the mindset, I believe, when I've learned in the league, you need to have to do that.
All right. Now, take what you've learned, right? And now what's in the book, and take me back. And there's a 19-year-old skinny kid, 6'5", 230 pounds, and he's going to get on a jet and he's going to fly all the way across the ocean to Houston to go on this adventure. What would you tell that 19-year-old Sebastian Vollmer now?
I mean, in the end, just go for it. I mean, I had nightmares. I had a nervous breakdown the night before I went. I was at the end, like there was a little voice telling me I have to do this, but I did not want to. And I mean, I was hard on myself. And I mean, with stress comes, cortisol levels, and without getting into too much detail, cannot be beneficial. But in the end, if you want to make it, well, what do you have to do? I'm 230 pounds. Well, I can't play Division I college unless I'm 300 plus. So I could have used that time, to eat, to work out, to get heavier, like all those things. I had to catch up on my first couple of years in college. So I was absolutely behind. And I think if you have a goal, what you want to accomplish, then you work back from that. And make your roadmap. But I think really what helped me is like a priority system, saying, well, if I want to do this, if I want to become a professional player, whatever it is, well, everything else needs to be below that. Meaning, okay, Friday night party and drinking some beers, probably not going to get me there. So, well, that one is out. But then sometimes they're hard decisions, right? Like, oh, birthday party. Well, it's the night before the game. Can't go. It's a wedding. Maybe not. At some point they become critical situations and questions you got to ask yourself, but it really depends on how important it is. And if the sport, your job is number one, everything got to be underneath it.
All right. So now you talk about the ability to prioritize, which I think is be able to compartmentalize and be able to, and to be able to prioritize are two things that are absolutely critical for success in professional sport. Where did you get that idea? Where did that come to you from?
In the league, like probably my second year or so, and you kind of pick it up from other things. I mean, Tom had a big impact. I mean, he said one time, if you want to beat me, you got to give up your life because I'm willing to do the same. And I mean, it really had a big impact on me. It's like, I mean, it is the absolute truth. I mean, if whatever you want to succeed in, if that is your number one, well, yeah, everything else kind of is going to be underneath that. And you got to ask yourself, well, are you willing to do that? But I do believe if you want to be the best, like a Tom Brady, well, he's not just winging it out there. Like, I mean, he is the greatest who has done it because of what he is putting in. We just don't see it, right? I mean, we all know he practices hard, but I mean, we kind of hear things, and if you know him privately, it's even more. Like, I mean, from what he eats to, what time he goes to bed, and the pH level in his water, like all those things. I mean, it really gets into the absolute detailed things, and it's really a question. Well, are you willing to do the same?
All right, now let's talk about those Patriots, right?
All right.
Which is a place that you had great success, Super Bowl champion, all that. They had a big win last weekend against the Jets. Put 50 on the Jets.
Yep.
Got a young quarterback that has done some really good things. Talk to me about what you see out of Mac.
Well, I'm excited. I think he's going to be, well, he's already good. I think, but we can't forget, I mean, he's still a rookie, and I don't mean this in a bad way. It's just experience itself. So I think Bill always says, I think the biggest jump is being made from year 1 to year 2, like having a full off season, knowing you're the starter, you don't split time with Cam Newton, doing, having film on yourself against NFL caliber defenses. All those things help, and you just it's the little things, right? Right now, you're probably maybe in a hotel, an apartment. You don't have your, massage therapist, your chiropractic office, whatever you need to do. You're kind of finding that your second off season around. So I think from that standpoint, you're getting better. Then a quarterback receiver connection, right? I mean, as I was saying, him splitting time with Cam Newton, those like for Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator, think about that. I mean, those are two very different players, so you probably have two very different ways of playing using your playbook. So that takes time from the offensive coordinator, spending time creating that for each player. For the players itself, I mean, the offensive line blocks differently for either quarterback, all those things. So I think it can only get better. And then hopefully nothing against the Jets, but it's probably not the strongest opponent, they have beaten. So we've got to maybe take it with a grain of salt, but I hope they can use it as like a momentum and get rolling from here.
I've really been impressed with him, Seabass, with his, maturity.
Yeah.
You see him faced with new blitzes that he hasn't seen. You see him get hit. You see him all the things where a young quarterback could unravel, and he doesn't seem to be shaken by those things. And I think that's a really, really, really good attribute for any athlete, but particularly a quarterback. Looking at the East, we're talking about the AFC East.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Dolphins were hugely disappointed. You live in Florida now. What's the sense down there?
Well, I mean, I live in the very north of Florida, so I'm 1,000 miles away. But I don't know. It's like, to me, I've been saying it for a while. I think the Bills obviously have been a strong team for years, and they have been unlucky, let's say, to be behind the Patriots for so long. But they were really a strong too, and they deserved to be in the playoffs, and it just didn't work out for them for a while. And I think they deservedly sitting on top, and I think they're strong. I mean, I don't know. Miami it's tough. It's tough to win down there. Like as a unit, I think there are a lot of distractions in that city. Obviously, I mean, we all know, I've heard of Miami and South Beach and all those things. That probably doesn't help. I think it's frustrating for Miami fans, because I mean, they have talent. They have B-Flow. I think it's a good coach. It's sometimes had a similar discussion not too long ago, and it's like I don't know. Obviously, from the outside in, we're talking here on camera. It's always easy to judge. I don't know how to fix it. To be honest with you, I don't know what to do about it.
Well, B-Flow, I think, has got to get it fixed, and get it fixed pretty fast, because in the National Football League, as they say, it's not for long, and that's just the way it is. How about the Jets? Did you think that the Jets were going to make a step this year?
I feel like you always do feel or hope, or do you feel like, I mean, that's how the NFL is set up, right? I mean, it's like the worst team gets the first pick, and like all those things. There's many mechanisms in place where you should help the weaker teams. And I mean, they haven't done anything, like they haven't been to playoffs in I can't even remember how many years. Probably
since Rex Ryan was there. That's how long ago.
Gosh,
so
I mean,
it might have been a year one or two for you, I think.
Yeah, I think so, because they went to the AFC Championship game, I think, twice in a row. It might have been like 2010 and 11, something like that. I can't remember, but it's a while. But since then, I don't know. I mean, Rex Ryan, great coach, great defensive-minded guy. I mean, he always gave us a lot of problems. We lost against him quite a bit. So always a great defense. I mean, they were certainly structured to beat Tom Brady, which all the AFC East teams had to do. I mean, good defensive lines. Trying to create a lot of pressure, and sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Now they got to adjust probably, even though Mac is a very similar quarterback, but now you're probably chasing the Buffalo Bills, so you might have to have a slightly different team.
Yep, that's exactly right. Hey, listen, before we let you go, we got some people that were dying to get questions to you. So
All right.
Mike, can you come out and let's give it a couple of questions to Seabass. Are you with us? Hey, you gotta take your mood off. There you go, buddy.
I was on mute. It's my bad. It's my bad. Obviously, thanks so much to everybody for their questions. Sebastian, here's a couple. Okay, first one is actually a guy from Wales, from Cardiff. Sebastian, also called Sebastian. What German city would? Well, I guess you sort of answered it. Would be best suited to host an NFL game, and why? I think everyone's just excited, Sebastian, for this game next year or in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, these are all good choices, to be honest with you. I think it really depends on the overall concept, as I was talking to Jeff about. And that's why we're going over there. Really, you got to look. And I think that they'll be sold out. I think the fans, I mean, it's a small country, right? I mean, you can take a train in 5 hours, you're on the other side. So it's not that big of a deal. And if you watch it soccer, I mean, they travel every Saturday. So I'm not worried about selling out.
Hey, I want to tell you something. You got the two of us. We're right in candidates. We're saying Munich. Go with Munich.
All right, we'll find out. I'll be back during Super Bowl, and we'll find out who won.
All right. Well, you can come back on the show, and we can talk about it.
All right.
Just trying to get the exclusive. I've got one more question, Sebastian. It's from a guy called Mark. He's a big Pats fan, so please excuse his question. It's a big question. O-line colleagues sometimes had some unexpected plays, whether Dan Conley versus Green Bay, Nate Solder with eligible tackle touchdown against the Colts, or even the four-man line against the Ravens and Hooman receiving from the left tackle spot. Did you ever have a designated play that wasn't called, or did you lobby Bill Belichick for one?
So that play, if you remember, that Nate, I think it was an AFC Championship game against Baltimore where he caught that pass. So that goes obviously both ways, and kind of disappointed, you know.
No, wait a second. Oh, you could have had that ball if it gone the other way, if they called it the other way.
I mean, technically, it's probably a good choice. They didn't choose me, you know. I mean, no, but we were happy. Actually, if you watch the celebration afterwards, I mean, the entire offensive line is just like drowning him in fat. Just everybody's on top of him, you know, and just loving on him. So it was great. So when offensive lineman scores, it's always great.
Every other question, Jeff and Sebastian, is asking what city it is in Germany. So I have nothing else to add here. Apart from, I hope it's Munich. So.
Listen, man, I tell you what, it's awesome to have you back on the show. Congratulations on being involved in, this selections thing with Germany. You're killing it on TV. Now you're turning into a movie star on me.
Oh, please.
Writing your second book, baby. I love it. Well, listen,
appreciate it.
I look forward to seeing you down the road. I know I'll see you this before the Super Bowl, and if not, I'll see you at the Super Bowl, and then get your family over and come visit us in Hawaii.
Will do. Would love to. I appreciate it, Jeff, as always. It's been great.
Thank you very much, my brother.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's the 73rd time we've done this, the 73rd edition of Coffee with the Coach. Michael, outstanding job. Two fantastic guests. It was awesome to have Richard Graves dishing about his Dallas Cowboys. You can't tell he's excited. He thinks the Cowboys are going to the Super Bowl. And Sebastian Vollmer, Super Bowl champion, New England Patriot offensive lineman, and currently involved with the National Football League in the selection of the city that will host a international series game in Germany, hopefully next year. It was great to have those two great guests on. Always a pleasure with you, Michael. And again, great questions and comments from everybody on the tribe. Again, we'll see you next week here on Coffee with Coach.
Thanks, Jeff. See you next week.